Hello everyone, this is Sangeetha, working as Assistant Professor in Department of Civil Engineering at VNR VJIT since 2015. I'm happy to connect with you all through this digital learning platform. And now let us learn a course in civil engineering, that is estimation and costing. Fine. Before moving on to the course, can you guess the location? Yes, your guess is correct. It is nothing but our Durgam Chervu at Hyderabad. If you look at this landmark, there are beautiful buildings that belongs to public enterprises, private sectors, and even you can see some public properties like this very own bridge, and you can see this cable stay bridge, and there is a bund all around this lake location. How all this construction activity could have started? What is the initial point in this construction activities? It is a simple basic calculation process called estimation. Fine. Well, you are going to construct maybe a simple building, or you may be planning to construct a bridge, or you are planning to construct a dam, or even if you are planning to construct a simple bus stop, you have to prepare a simple calculation which is called estimate. Fine. Then what is this estimate? Estimate is the anticipated or probable cost of the work which is prepared before the commencement of project. And how will you arrive at this cost? To calculate the cost, initially you should know the quantity of work involved. And to that quantity, you have to multiply the rate per unit amount of that quantity. And then you will get the cost. Fine. What is the benefit of doing this estimation before the commencement of project? If an estimate is properly prepared, then there will not be much deviation between the actual cost and the estimated cost, and your project goes on time and you can enjoy the benefits as you have planned. Fine. To prepare a proper estimate, what are the requirements? Pause the video here and share your answers on the comment section. I hope you all have guessed correct. Yes. The very important requirement for preparing an estimate is drawings. That includes both plans and sections. And once you have drawing, that alone may not be sufficient. You should know the specifications of your infrastructure. It may be either road or your building. And after knowing the specifications of the building, you need to know the prevailing market cost both for the materials as well as labors. So once you know the rates of each and every building materials and specifications of your structure, and if you get the drawing of your structure, then you are good to go to do estimation. Fine. Who should learn this estimation and costing? It is very much required even for engineers in any sector. They may be either in public sector as well as in the private sector. For contractors and for builders, quantity surveyors, even for cost accountants. Estimation and costing is very much required. As the subject is that important, let us move on to the course. And as a first part, we learn what is estimation and how to do calculation of quantities. Before learning any subject, we must be familiar with certain terminologies related to that particular topic. Fine. Now, we'll see what is percentage charge in estimation. In any engineering project, certain amount of budget is allocated for supervision works and some amount of budget is allocated for your plannings and designing works, and a certain amount of money is allocated for maintaining your office facilities. And all these charges comes under percentage charge. And this percentage of amount will be around 10 to 15% of your budgeted cost. Fine. Now, the next thing is, work charged establishment. In estimation and costing, establishment means expenses, and work charged establishment means expenses which are charged against a work directly. And this work charged establishment is generally charged for temporary works in a construction activity. For example, at a construction site, you will be procuring materials and you will be storing it there. So to safeguard that material, you will be appointing some person as a watchman or a supervisor or a security person. So their salary will be charged under this work charged establishment, and their appointment is temporary and they will be sanctioned by competent authority, and their tenure expires at the end of the sanctioned period. Suppose your construction works gets completed before your planned time, then you can cancel their appointment by giving a 1 month prior notice. Fine. Now move on to the next definition, which is lump sum item. As the term indicates, lump sum means approximation. For example, as you can see here, there is a plastering of a compound wall where for the aesthetic purpose you have done some decorative works for which certain amount of plaster, that is mortar, is involved. So this mortar quantity is an approximate quantity and there is no point in calculating it to these details. And this mortar quantity can be taken as certain approximate amount and you no need to do such a detailed calculation for this work. And it can be termed as a lump sum item in your estimation. And even you can take an example of making of a furniture. In a furniture making, you will be using number of bolts and nuts. And those bolts and nuts quantities cannot be exactly arrived. And you can take some approximate amount. So that comes under a lump sum item. Fine. Next one is provisional sum. See, in colleges, when you are leaving, you will be given with the provisional certificates. So what does the word provisional means? So provisional means you do not know its nature when you are preparing it. Similarly, while preparing an estimate, you will not be knowing the nature of or you may not be having the details of certain amount of work. And the amount of money which is allocated for such works comes under provisional sum. For example, in the construction of an apartment, for the purpose of installation of a lift, if you are not knowing the particulars of that lift, then you can allocate that amount as a provisional sum. And you can even appoint a specialized firm for doing that installation work. You can even take one more example as installation of solar fencing around your building, which may not be necessarily done by a civil contractor. Even you can approach some specialized firm at the end of construction or completion of your project. Fine. So the next important terminology is contingencies. So what do you mean by contingencies? Contingency means unforeseen expenditures which are incurred during the execution of your project. For example, if any of your worker at the site is facing some accidents and you need to admit him or her to the hospital, then all the expenditures that are faced by the department comes under contingencies. And contingencies will be allocated as around 3 to 5% of your estimated cost. Luckily, if you are not facing any unforeseen expenditures at your construction site, you can divert this contingency amount for doing some upgradation work at the site. For example, you might not have planned for some false ceiling in your building. If the budget which is allocated for contingency is left unused, then you can go for false ceiling works as an upgradation. Right? Now, we will see what are the different types of estimates. Broadly, estimates are of two types. One is approximate estimate, another one is detailed estimates. In approximate estimate, we have different methods like plinth area method, cubic rate method, unit rate method, Bay method, approximate quantity from bill method, comparison method, revised method, supplementary estimate, and maintenance estimate. Well, You know what? Recently, Telangana Public Service Commission has released a notification for the recruitment of assistant executive engineer. In that syllabus also, some weightage is given for approximate estimate, especially plinth and cubic rate estimate. Since this topic is of important in real life scenario, it is even being included in the syllabus for AW recruitment as well. Now we'll see what is approximate estimate. As the word indicates, approximate means it is knowing the approximate cost of the project. Well, you know why we do this approximate estimation. Before sanctioning of the budget, first the government has to work out, not even a government, even any private agency, they have to work out whether their investment is meaningful or not, or whether that return which they are earning out of the project will be equivalent to their investment or what they need to work out. So for that purpose, initially an approximate estimate is being prepared. And it is done based on how many number of units, for example, if it is a school, how many number of students are being studied, if it is an hospital, how many number of beds are there, or if it is a factory, how many number of bays are there in that factory floor. So based on that, we will be arriving at the approximate estimate. And you can even do it based on plinth area of the building or cubic content of a building, or by approximate quantities involved in its construction. And you can do this approximate estimate for the construction of roadways, highways and canals. Here you can see a highway. Before construction of this highway, you have to obviously go for an approximate estimate. Once that approximate estimate is sanctioned and found feasible, then you will be going for a detailed estimate, right? Fine. Now we'll see what is plinth area estimate. As the term indicates, we will be doing it based on the plinth area of the building. And how we do it? Suppose if you want to know the plinth area rate at a particular locality, you have to consider a building of similar nature and how much is the cost involved in its construction. So, and then you need to know what is that plinth, what is its plinth area. Then you have to arrive at the rate, and then you have to know the proposed area of your building and then multiply it with the rate. Finally, you will get approximate area based on plinth area method. And while considering the plinth area, you have to consider only the external area of the building, excluding the floor level, and you should not consider the open area which is around the building in between your building and the compound wall. Fine. So approximate cost is equal to plinth area of your building into plinth area rate from similar building, right? Here an example for that. Here you can see a building whose cost of construction is around 12 lakh and area of that building is 1200 square feet. Suppose in the same locality, if you are going for another building whose area is 1500 square feet, what would be its cost? It's obvious. Your rate of construction is around 1000 rupees per square feet. So this will come around 15 lakh for your proposed structure. Fine. Now we'll move on to cubic rate for estimation of buildings. And here we will consider the volume of the building. So in previous method, only two dimensions are considered, whereas here height of the structure is also being considered. And where will we consider this height? So height of the building is considered between two floors, and between this floor and this ceiling, you will be considering the height, right? Here you can see a building and you will be considering the height of building. For one floor construction, you have to consider the height between your floor level to the first ceiling level. For second floor, you have to consider from this floor level to the ceiling level. And for the parapet wall construction, only half the height is being considered because parapet wall has no roof, right? So to understand this topic better, let us solve some numerical problems. The first problem is estimate the quantity of brickwork and plastering required in a wall of 4 meter length, 3 meter high and 30 centimeter thick. Also calculate cost if the rate of brickwork is 320 per cubic meter and cost of plastering is 8 rupees 50 paise per square meter. See, in any civil engineering problem, if you wish to solve, try to figure it out. Try to picturize the problem from the question. Right? So here I have picturized that description which is given in the question. There is a wall of 4 meter long and 3 meter high and 30 centimeter thickness. So first what you need to arrive at? You have to arrive at what is the quantity of brickwork involved in your construction. So quantity of brickwork. So BW stands for brickwork. So quantity of brickwork means it is a volume. So 4 meter, 3 meter and convert this 30 centimeter thickness into meters, which makes 0.3, and in total you will get volume of your brickwork as 3.6 meter cube. And what is the cost of your brickwork? So cost of brickwork is equal to your quantity of brickwork. So quantity into rate for your brickwork construction. So 3.6 into 320 rupees, which would be around rupees 1152 for your given wall dimension. I expect my students to solve the problems along with me so that you can do it better. Fine. So next one is plastering work. Right. So in case of plastering, so we do plastering on the surface of walls, right? So you will be doing plastering works on the front side of your wall and then back side of your wall and also on the thickness, I mean edges of the wall, we will be doing plastering. So generally if you are doing an approximate estimation, we will not be doing considering the thickness, but to make you understand, I will consider the thickness also into calculation, but the thickness of wall will not be that much. We'll see in the problem. So quantity of plaster. So quantity of plastering equal to first front and back side of the wall. So the front dimension of your wall is 4 into 3. It is obviously the back side of the wall also. So multiply it with the 2 plus, and you have to consider the left hand, right hand sides of your wall, which is 3 meter height into 0.3. Then multiply it again with the 2 plus top of your wall, which is 4 meter into thickness of your wall, which is 0.3. Put together, you will get your wall quantity for plastering work is around 27 meter square. Right? So if you ignore this thickness, you may be arriving at somewhere around 24 or something. So we will consider the entire wall thickness also for plastering work. Right? So what is the cost of plastering? So cost of plastering is equal to your quantity for plastering, which is 27, and the rate of plastering is 8.5, which comes around rupees 229.5, which can be rounded off as rupees 230 for your plastering work. Fine. Hope you understood the problem. We'll move on to the next problem. So this problem is on plinth area method and cubical rate method. Here, a person wished to construct a building. He has constructed a building whose plinth area equals to 100 meter square on a plot land in a certain locality for a cost of around 9,50,000. The height of building from ground level to top of the roof is 3.5 meter and a parapet wall of height equals to 80 centimeter is constructed on the terrace. Determine the cost of construction of a similar building of plinth area equals to 135 meter square to be constructed in the same locality by plinth area rate and also by volume rate method. Volume rate method means your cubical method. Right? So here is your problem. As I said, first picturize. So you have a building which is existing at your locality and whose plinth area is around 100 meter square. Fine. So from this existing building, what we need to arrive at? We have to arrive at the rate. So rate of construction. So cost of construction is rupees 9,50,000 for constructing this 100 meter square area. So rate of construction is rupees 9,000 500 per meter square. Actually, it is very less in real life, but still for numerical consideration, we'll solve this problem. Right. And what is the area of your proposed structure? So, area of your proposed building or new building. So, BLDG stands for building. Okay. So, 135 meter square. So, what is the plinth area rate? So, your cost. So, cost of new building. So, cost of new building is equal to 135 multiplied by 9,500, which turns around rupees 12,82,500. Right? So, same problem, let us solve by volume rate method. Right? So, volume rate method. First, we need to know volume of existing building. So, volume of your existing building, we need to calculate. So, to know the volume of existing building, we have to consider the height of construction also. So, let me draw this one. So, here we have nicely picturized the height of building from ground level to the roof level is 3.5 meter, and from roof to the parapet wall construction is 0.8 meter. So, volume of existing 100 meter square building is, so volume of building equal to area into height of building. So, area you know which is 100, and volume we have to calculate. Height we have to calculate to arrive at the volume. See, height of the building 3.5 meter plus this parapet wall, as I mentioned while explaining, you have to consider only half of the height, because at the parapet wall portion there is no roof. So, you have to only consider half of your height. So, 100 into 3.5 plus 0.8 by 2, which comes around 3.9. So, 100 into 3.9 would be around 390 meter cube. This is volume of your existing building. From this volume, calculate rate per meter cube of construction. So, our existing building cost is 9,50,000 divided by 390. So, your building construction rate per meter cube of construction is rupees 2,435.89 per meter cube. Fine, you have arrived at the rate. Now we will calculate what is the volume of new building. So, volume of your proposed building or new building is equal to area of your new building is 135, and height, since the buildings are similar, again the same 3.5 meter, 0.8 by 2, because similar building, they have mentioned in the question it is a similar building. Right? So, I am considering the same height. Otherwise, you need to go with the given heights. So, 135 into 3.9, which comes around 526.5 meter cube. So, you know the volume, rate is also known to you. Now, calculate the cost of new building. So, new building equal to 526.5 into 2,435.89, which comes around rupees 12,82,496. So, which is almost same as your previous case, right? And this volume rate method would be useful when the existing building at the location is only 2-story. And suppose if you want to calculate the building whose volume is different, then this method is very much useful, cubical rate method. I hope you have understood both the methods, and remaining topics we will discuss in the next video session. And thank you for your time and patient listening. Hope you have enjoyed. If you have any doubts, you can mention in the comment section, and you can refer the sources mentioned here. Thank you.
Like, share, comment, and subscribe VNR Digital Learning Resource YouTube channel.